Welcome to the Rent to Rent Success podcast, the only podcast entirely dedicated to helping you achieve rent to rent success. We talk about the ethical way to get you started in property without buying it. This is our place to inspire each other to believe bigger, to be bolder, and to be game changers for good. Property investors and sisters Stephanie and Nicky Taylor are your guides on this exciting ride. Let's start up the engines and get ready to fly. Hello. It's Stephanie here and welcome to episode 13 of Ask the Angels, where we answer your rent-to-rent questions. If you'd like to have your question answered, go to renttoRentSuccess.com/ask and record your question there for us to answer. Today's question is from Gabriel about landlord letters. So here's Gabriel's question.
Just asking to know the best way to scrape landlord's data from HMO list, and also the daunting way of having to write them out. You did mention one of the videos that Stannp can help. I want to know about the process of getting all the lists out through Stannp and how the process works, please. Thanks.
Brilliant. So that is a great question, and I'm here today with the answer. So what you do, first of all, let me take a step back in case you're wondering what letters is Gabriel talking about. So you might be new to the podcast and not know. So with rent to rent, you're managing HMO properties, also known as house shares. And one of the best ways to let HMO landlords know about our existence is to write letters to them. One of the great things about rent to rent is that each local council is required by law to produce a public list of HMO landlords in their area. This means that we are able to write to HMO landlords about our management services. And for us, this has been the way that we've gotten most of our rent-to-rent deals. And so many of our Kickstarters and loads of other people as well have had so much success with landlord letters. It's a super successful strategy. It's a way you can speak directly to your perfect customers. There's a phenomenal return on landlord letters when you do them right. So landlord letters cost us less than the price for first class stamp for each letter. And so far, we've brought in contracts worth over £2 million over the contract terms. There are many myths about sending letters, though. And this is where I'm going to be controversial. The old guard says that you should handwrite your envelopes and use coloured envelopes. I don't agree. Here's why. It's because the reason why that this is suggested that you should handwrite your envelopes, and this is what Gabriel's asking about, the alternative that I mentioned to handwriting your envelopes. People suggest that you handwrite your envelopes because landlords are much more likely to open them. And that may or may not be true. What is definitely true, though, is the more letters you send to your target customers and the more consistently you send them, the more leads you will get. And this is where handwriting will stop you getting results. Let me explain. Handwriting your envelopes is very time consuming and means that you will usually end up sending fewer letters, and you'll send out letters less often. And that is where your results will be lower than others who are automating this process. And yes, you could outsource the handwriting of the envelopes. This then adds another unnecessary expense, as you can get great results without it. When you automate the sending of personalized letters which resonate with your readers' problems, and when you send the right number of letters each time, and when you when you do it consistently, because it's easy to do it consistently, you'll get much better results. So we heard the advice about handwriting the envelopes and using colored envelopes when we were starting out. And we looked into it. The colored envelopes were actually expensive. And I didn't relish the idea of writing over 300 addresses or even outsourcing it to a VA and arranging delivery of the envelopes and the stamps to them. So we decided to try automation. And we tried a few different companies, but we found Stannp to be the best. I'll put the link in the show notes. Each letter is cheaper than the price of a first-class stamp. So if we did it by hand, it would take us days, if not weeks, to get our letters done. And we'd need to pay for coloured envelopes. We'd need to pay for paper. We'd need to pay for ink cartridges to print the letters. Plus, we'd need to pay for the stamps. It looked like it would cost us almost double what we're paying through Stannp to send out our DIY letters. So we tried Stannp, and our results were so good that we never wanted to try DIY. And that is what Gabriel mentioned in his question. He's asking how to use Stannp to automate the process. So I've been surprised how many people don't know about Stannp. And we're going to send their letters by hand. But the difference with Stannp is that you don't need to do a complicated mail merge. You don't need to print hundreds of letters. You don't need to buy multicolored envelopes. You don't need to handwrite all of those envelopes. Yes, that is what people are doing. You don't need to match the right handwritten envelope with the right letter. You don't need to manually stuff all the envelopes. You don't need to stick all those stamps onto your envelopes, hundreds of them, all by hand. Here's how it works with Stannp. You have one version of your electronic letter. You have one spreadsheet with your landlord name and address data. You upload your letter into Stannp with the tags of where to insert the recipient's first name, and Stannp does the rest. So Gabriel, you take the data from the landlord list and format it for use in Stannp. In the letter, there are personalization tags, which are placed where the first name and the address will be. This enables your letter to include a personalized greeting such as Dear Nicky or Hi Nicky, rather than a generic greeting such as Dear Landlord. And it enables all your envelopes to include Nicky Taylor and the address rather than just the address. And it does all this auto-magically. And how much does all this cost, Stephanie? That's the best part of this. That, as I mentioned earlier, it's less than the price of a first-class stamp. And you simply cannot beat the price by individually buying the paper, the coloured envelopes, the printer, the cartridges, the stamps. You cannot beat the price by doing it yourself. There are very few occasions where it's actually less expensive to automate. It takes less time and less money to automate. So what matters is the results. As I say, contracts worth over 2 million from letters. And I'll put the link in the show notes as well. rents2rentsuccess.com/Stannp. And Stannp is spelled STANN for November P. And if you're in the Kickstarter program, it's hard to do all of this audio. It is a visual process. But if you're in the Kickstarter program, you'll see a step-by-step guide to the data to include for Stannp and the format to use in Stannp and exactly how and when to send your letters, what to put in your letters. It's all in M4.4. In summary, Gabriel, you can convert the HMO landlord list into a format to use in Stannp and automate the sending of your letters. And if you would like to see the winning templates that we used to send our letters, the letters that we sent that have worked the best, they are available to buy those templates on our website at rents2rentsuccess.com/shop, SHOP. So I hope that's been useful today. If you're new with us today, or you'd just like to find out a little bit more about Rent to Rent, do check out our free Rent to Rent Success Masterclass, and that's at rents2rentsuccess.com/guide. That's all for now. I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you so much for being with me here today. If you would like more, we've written the #1 best-selling book on rents to rent. You can find it at rents2rentsuccess.com/book. Reviewers on Amazon have described it as the best rent-to-rent HMO book and also as a definitive reference guide and inspirational. Take your next step today and buy the book. You can find it at rent2rentsuccess.com/book. And I'll see you again next time. Until then, remember, believe bigger, be bolder, be a game changer.